Okay, welcome to a bit of history of Mr. Mack-Poole. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through a chronological order of the English Reformation, monarch by Tudor monarch. I hope you can see me, I hope you can see my face here. So we're going to start with Henry VIII. And the reason I'm doing this is because I went through the Reformation before, but that wasn't the English Reformation specifically, and we didn't really get onto how Elizabeth kind of dealt with the English Reformation in enough detail for my liking. So anyway, Henry VIII is a very famous Tudor monarch. You should have studied him at primary school, you should have studied him at Key Stage 3, but basically, to cut a long story short, he had 6 wives, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. Now, the reason that he had so many wives, or the reason he divorced in the first place, really plays into the English Reformation. So Henry VIII, why did he want a divorce, or an annulment more accurately? So we all know what a divorce is, but an annulment was a special verdict from the church would say that the wedding was never valid in the first place. So Henry VIII's first wife was Catherine of Aragon. Now the problem that he had was that she could have no more children, and he wanted a baby boy to inherit the throne, to secure the Tudor bloodline and name. Now, his wife was a bit older than him, and the reason that he had to marry Catherine of Aragon is because his older brother, Arthur Tudor, had died quite young. Now, when Arthur Tudor and Catherine of Aragon had met, had got married, Arthur Tudor was very young, and Henry VIII's dad, said after his death, well, he had never consummated the marriage, that Arthur Tudor had never consummated the marriage with Catherine of Aragon. The reason that they said this was so that Henry VIII could marry Catherine of Aragon and make Spain and England friendly countries. Now, this obviously didn't work out. And Henry VIII himself said that his marriage was cursed by God because he married his brother's wife, and he found that actually there were biblical arguments that testified to this. So because of that, he wanted a divorce. He wanted a son. He thought he was cursed by God, and therefore he thought that he should have never married Catherine of Aragon. So he wrote to the Pope, Pope Clement, and asked for an annulment, and the Pope said no. The Pope said that your marriage was valid and that you can't seek a divorce. Now the Pope was actually on very friendly terms with Catherine of Aragon's family, which might be why he said no. So Henry VIII, who had really been a devout Catholic, he'd written an essay in defence of the Catholic Church and was called the Defender of the Faith by the Pope himself before this, so this was a big surprise for the Pope. Henry VIII basically said, I'm breaking away from this church, and he formed the Church of England, and he made himself the supreme head of that church. Now, okay, this had massive ramifications. Now, whilst he did this, he never really made England a truly Protestant country. He himself kind of kept the church very Catholic in all respects. But his son, Edward VI, who inherited the throne, was a Protestant. His mum, Jane Seymour, came from a Protestant family. And so he, or his advisors, his uncles, passed very Protestant reforms in England. Now, he was a boy king, and he didn't live very long, and he didn't reign for very long either. You can see 6 years. And his oldest sister, Mary Tudor, known as Bloody Mary, she came in, and she was a Catholic. So if you think about the English people, they've gone from being part of the Catholic Church to being under Henry VIII, which was really a Catholic church in all but name, then going into a Protestant church, now back to Catholicism. It was very confusing for the English public. But Mary Tudor said, we're a Catholic country. She married Philip of Spain, King Philip of Spain, and she basically set about what we call the Counter-Reformation. Now, when she did this, she was very serious about what she said, and she burnt almost 300 Protestants at the stake. The reason we know this is because of a man called John Fox, a Puritan, and he wrote in his book, the Book of Martyrs, and a martyr is someone who dies for their religion. He wrote all about it in there. So he kept that on record for us, and he made sure he had lots of grisly pictures because he knew that most people couldn't read, but if they saw the pictures of Protestants burning, that would make them hate Catholics. Okay, now this leads us to Elizabeth I. So she gets to the throne, and what she does, she goes for a middle way between Edward and Mary. She makes a Protestant church, but with Catholic practices. She keeps vestments, she keeps some decoration in her churches. And vestments, by the way, are what priests would wear. So she makes a middle way church, and she passes 2 acts, the acts of uniformity and the acts of supremacy. It's called her religious settlement. It's her method for settling the problem of religion. Now, she's not extreme like her sister. She doesn't burn Catholics because, Mary Tudor burned Protestants. Elizabeth could have burnt Catholics. But despite the fact that Elizabeth was very reasonable and she went for this uniformity, everyone going to one church which had both Protestant and Catholic elements in it, despite that, she still found that she got a lot of opposition from Catholics. Particularly, they were not happy with being recusants, paying fines for not attending the Church of England. And a lot of people a lot of Catholics rather, were offended by the Act of Supremacy, which made her the supreme governess of the Church of England. They said this was still a rival to the Pope, because they believed that the Pope was the authority on Christianity on earth. Now, Elizabeth actually called herself the supreme governess not to offend Catholics. By calling herself the supreme governess, she didn't call herself the head of the church, did she? So she didn't want to offend Catholics or people who thought that only a male could be the head of the church. So this video really breaks down, piece by piece, the chronology of the English Reformation, the Counter-Reformation, who was Protestant, who was Catholic, how Elizabeth tried to go for a middle way. So I really hope this has secured your understanding of the English Reformation and Elizabeth's religious settlement. Her act of uniformity, one Church of England. Her act of supremacy, she would be the supreme governess of that Church of England. Okay, I hope that's really good for your understanding. Thank you and bye.